Alright, how's it going, guys? Today's going to be mostly a shape overview of the Razer ProClick. This is a mouse that caught my attention because it seemed to offer some potential things in terms of shape that I was interested in that I hadn't really been able to find on more sort of dedicated gaming mice. And the other idea with it was it looked to be one of the few mice in the Artings 3D comparison tool that potentially had a chance of accommodating larger hands than what seemed to be able to use a mouse like the Pro IntelliMouse or the EC1 comfortably, largely due to the significant extra height and the steepness of the hump, making me hope that it would be, you know, more suitable to accommodate large hands. To start with, I can basically say that's not the case. Overall, this mouse feels very similar in size to my G703, actually. So yeah, it really doesn't work for huge hands, I don't think. The back of the mouse is fairly cut in here, which means that the width across kind of this region, where the base of my thumb and my pinky knuckle want to squeeze the hump of the mouse to get some control over it, is about 58 millimeters across, which is not like particularly thin, but it's definitely thinner than I was expecting on a mouse of this size. For reference, the Pro IntelliMouse in a similar area, not even down at the bottom of the mouse at its widest, but more up here, it is like 7 millimeters wider at the equivalent contact points than the ProClick. And so overall, this sort of forces the base of my palm to come further forward and squeeze like this to try and hang on to the hump of the ProClick, which in and of itself is not that foreign of a sensation. It feels similar to how I hold the G703, but it was a little bit awkward to feel like that's how I had to grip the mouse, and that I couldn't really grip it with a fully relaxed base of my palm the way that I can with the Pro Intelli. Yeah, it just threw me off slightly because this mouse, you know, theoretically being designed primarily around ergonomics, I was shocked to feel like I had to hold some tension in my hand to grip it properly, it felt like. The other part of it is that it's got quite a steep hump angle here, and in addition to the medium sort of overall length, it's like 125 millimeters or something, you know, 5 mil shorter than the Intelli or an EC1. So the combination of the steep hump angle and the fairly short length means that I end up having to grip the mouse in a way where quite a lot of my forearm makes very solid contact with the mouse pad and drags fairly aggressively during arm flicks. And so it just makes it harder to game with and less comfortable to use with low sensitivity. The typical approach I would take if a mouse was really forcing this level of aggressive forearm contact that's being caused by my wrist being bent so far back, by the way, would be to choke up higher on the hump of the mouse to pull the front edge of my arm up slightly and get that amount of contact with the pad back to more of an area where I'm used to. The problem with trying to do that with the Razer ProClick is that because it's only sort of G703 length, I run out of room at the front. And unlike the 703, it doesn't nicely wrap around with the rubber grip. It has this cheap, like, painted plastic chrome bit that's kind of got a corner to it. And it's also, as you can see, cut back at a very aggressive angle. And so I can't really use this shape to pull the mouse back into my grip to help sustain this quite choked up on top of it sort of a grip. I can use it okay, but again, I can't do very effective sort of fingertip adjustments with it, and overall it just feels like my hand's kind of falling off the front of the mouse, and these two fingertips want to drag on the mouse pad too, because as you can see, this part of the mouse is sort of tall, and then it hangs down towards the front. So the G703, these fingers are actually pointed more straight forward, and so the drag on the bottom edge of them is less of an issue. But with this one, having them more pointed downward, the further I choke up on the mouse, the more I'm driving my fingertips down into the mouse pad. And so it doesn't really suit that type of adjustment to my grip. So that's why I say it's frustrating, because it feels like it forces me to have more arm contact and friction with the mouse pad than I'd like to have. The shape of it, to try and describe it a bit more accurately for those of you who haven't tried it, because I know it's not a very common purchase on the, for example, the Mouse Review subreddit. It seems fairly clearly divided into kind of 4 distinct planes. They do have rounded corners between them, obviously, but there's the thumb groove, which has a fairly consistent angle about like this, all the way down it. And then the ring and pinky finger rest of the mouse echoes that same tilt. You see that? So these two sides are kind of parallel, which is actually a nice touch, and it feels kind of cool. Then you have this quite steep hump, which is also tilted slightly this way, so that my pinky side of my hand is a little bit further forward than the thumb side. And then you have a fairly flat button design like this. And the way that it results is that I get my thumb in the thumb groove, and then my pinky and ring finger rest kind of stacked on the outside, right? And then I pull it back into my palm, which forces this wrist to be bent back at a certain angle. And then those 3 contact points make it so that I can't quite droop these 2 knuckles down far enough to let these fingers rest flush against the buttons easily. It's like I have to pick up the base of my palm to seesaw my hand into the right position to get the finger contact I want. So yeah, kind of awkward. So what I end up doing instead is just bending my knuckles more aggressively like this, which detaches them from contacting the top of the mouse. And ends up with almost kind of a Zowie ZA looking shape to my hand, where it's tall at the back and very pointed, and then gradually descends towards the front, which I found slightly interesting. But yeah, the alternative would be to just curl the fingers, but for some reason doing this doesn't feel quite right on this mouse, and I really want to have a longer length of flush sort of finger contact with it to try and maximize my comfort. So I don't know. You could do this, but it just, yeah, it doesn't feel as nice. So I don't feel like I want to do it. Let's see, what else? I've been kind of downer on the shape, so what are some good parts of it? I like the height in the thumb groove here. I've got plenty of room to rest my thumb in there, and it's very comfortable. Again, I just kind of wish this side of the mouse was maybe 2-3 millimeters wider. The flat buttons, again, when I can get my fingers rested inside of them like this, are pretty nice, to be honest. They feel good, nice and comfy. And the extra height, if I do go for more of a relaxed claw grip, means that I'm able to rest my pinky here by using a fairly relaxed curl to it. In fact, like significantly more relaxed than what I can do on the Pro and Tele mouse. The grip I have on the Pro Click is more like this. So you see how much more I'm pulling back and curling my pinky on this mouse in order to prevent it from dragging on the mouse pad. So the extra height there is actually a nice touch on the Pro Click, because I get to have quite a nice sort of combination of support for my pinky knuckle and then enough height to curl gently and grip onto the side here. So that's a nice touch. Final things, it doesn't feel particularly nice as an office mouse. The buttons are properly tensioned, but there's a ton of pre-travel. The click, like the button doesn't build up force consistently to the point where the switch actuates, so I can't quite tell if I'm about to click or not, which is annoying. Again, and the click feels mushy, like even more mushy than the Zowie mice that I've tried recently. So it doesn't feel premium. It doesn't feel particularly nice or comfortable or anything. The thumb buttons have a lot of pre-travel, which is kind of annoying, especially since they don't stick out very far from the shell to begin with, but their actual click feel is nice. It's plenty tactile and fairly snappy. And they are properly tensioned. But yeah, they're just, I mean, they're up and out of the way, but they're not as nice to use as 518 thumb buttons, and I don't know. They're probably one of the better parts of this mouse, though. The scroll wheel annoys me because it's super, like, loose and sort of rattly. And I know part of that's to accommodate this tilt click functionality, but like, I don't want to listen to this all day. Like, if this is a productivity mouse, are you kidding me? That's crap. It's so annoying. Like, it's part of the reason I don't like using the Pro Intelli for like productivity stuff, because this scroll wheel's just obnoxious. And it doesn't give me like a meaningful tactile benefit to offset the loudness of it. At least with the EC1C's scroll wheel, it's like, ooh, that's nice when I feel it working, even if it's loud and obnoxious to listen to. But this guy, the tactile steps are so subtle and like indistinct. It's, especially if you start scrolling with any kind of speed, it just turns into a sort of generic, and I can't even feel the steps. And I suppose the argument is, well, you can use that plus the inertia you can build up with the heavy wheel to scroll longer distances quickly and approximate a, you know, an infinite scroll wheel or something. But like, it's just, I don't know, I don't enjoy it. I mean, maybe it works well for some people, but yeah, I really don't like it. I mean, overall, again, it's not like a cheap shell either, but for a 102-gram mouse, there's about as much ability for me to flex the sides together with not horrendous amounts of pressure as like similar to what I feel on like the Asus Gladius 3 wireless or the some of the better copies of the Saber Pro wireless, not the really bad ones where the sides are floppy as hell, but it's just, it doesn't, you know, like, for a mouse this heavy and for this price point and with this focus on like ergonomics and productivity, you'd want the touch points on it to feel premium and you'd want it to feel nice to use, and it just doesn't. It feels like any sort of generic, you know, mass-produced big wireless gaming mouse that is just, yeah, just kind of underwhelming in terms of its build quality, which unfortunately seems to be most wireless gaming mice for some reason. I went back and I've had people asking me for like a well-built wireless mouse recently, and have really struggled to come up with good suggestions. I mean, you can mod some of them to be really good, like the 703, but in stock form, almost every wireless mouse I've tried has some real QC problems compared to like Vaxi products, for example, and it's just like, what, like, why is it so hard to make a wireless mouse with good build quality? I don't understand. Anyway, I'm ranting now, so I'll stop. But yeah, I mean, that's basically my experience so far with the Razer ProClick. Overall, again, I would just get a G703 instead. It's significantly cheaper. It's about the same size. It feels just as comfortable. And, yeah, and it has nicer buttons to it. And, yeah, so, anyway, unfortunate that this is kind of a letdown to me, but, there you go. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow.